I've seen our younger generation, the younger generation, like after my generation, I'd say Generation Y and down. Masculine men have kind of they're kind of going the way of the go-go bird. They're just not around anymore. And as we explained what a masculine man was, right? And here's the reasons that I think. Okay, I personally, this is what I think. I think, well, first of all, I think 50% of the kids in the country are raised by single moms.
Sure.
Right? And the large majority of the fathers are either absent because they were never married to begin with, or they're divorced and they can only see their kids, every other weekend, which is somewhat insignificant. So they don't have a teacher, if you will, or a strong male role model
Mm-hmm.
in their life. So they can't be taught to be masculine. Women certainly can't really teach them to be masculine because it's not their nature. I mean, they could try, but generally speaking, men take discipline better from men. So usually young boys, they'll kind of like, they get to a certain age and don't want to listen to their mother anymore, right? Because being a mama's boy is like frowned upon. And if they don't have a strong male figure in their life, they could really get themselves in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the first reason. The other reason is women being raised to be dominant, to be independent, listening to the propaganda of "I don't need a man," all the pop music and rap music and shows like I don't know, what's that show with all the girls at the round table on TV? I forgot.
Is it The View?
It started with The View, right? The View, or it's the, well, we don't need a man. Man is terrible, toxic masculinity, blah, blah, blah. I don't need no man to take care of me and my kids. Another part is, from what I understand, the divorce rate has gone up significantly ever since civil rights, ever since they passed welfare, Medicare, food stamps, so on and so forth, for especially for single moms.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they had, and I think it was something unintentional. So generally, so the lower income neighborhoods, they don't need a man, right? Because they could actually just rely on the government. And then I've seen a lot of in the higher income. Have you seen this? Have you seen where like a woman has a kid, but she like either got knocked up or left her husband, and now she just lives with her family, and the family is kind of serving as what the man should be, the providing, and so on and so forth.
So I'm not seeing it just because I'm only working with couples. So obviously they're in a
Oh,
relationship.
right, but I mean, in your life,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure, and I think that
yeah.
exists.
So, and I think the breakdown of the nuclear family because of all this, I think, is basically breeding men that aren't masculine. And we are taught to, if a woman is raised to be dominant and raised to be independent and raised to be, I don't need no man, then she's going to date or marry a submissive man. Two dominant people it's just not gonna work. They're gonna be at odds with one another. And usually it doesn't even get that far. Usually who you're gonna date, who you want to date. You know what I mean? You never get into a 6-month relationship with somebody who's the mirror image of you. Usually somebody has to complement you. So if you're a dominant person, you're gonna pick somebody who's submissive, and vice versa, right? So all these things, I think, in the last 40 years have started breeding men that are not very masculine. I mean, I've been in situations where I'm in the gym and there are these young guys in the gym and we're just talking smack, and a good looking girl will walk by with the yoga pants and they'll say to the young kid, look at that, and they'll be embarrassed. And I'm like, it's guy talk, and they can't relate. It's like, oh, or it's like, I don't understand. I don't get it. I've been out with my wife on dates, And we have couples that are like me, but then there are couples, and the older guys are like me, where they pay and whatnot. But then we have like couples that the wife breaks out the calculator and, okay, this is how much everybody owes, and I'm like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? And the guy is just sitting there like, with the like this kind of, And then we go out afterwards and he's like all the way in the back because he doesn't want to go in his pocket to buy the girls a drink. Do you know what I mean? One of those, And it's like, Jesus, man, who, God, I don't get it. It's so different today. Anyway, so that's my take on it. What do you think?
As an overall thing or something specific, like just
anything, just shoot it out. I don't care.
I mean, I think that I agree with the, sort of the breakdown of the nuclear family and kind of all the implications that that has had. I mean, I think that makes perfect sense that men maybe don't look the same as they used to as a result of not having a father figure.
Look the same or act the same?
Well, acts the same, like their presentation, like they don't, you're seeing them and where they're moving through the world might not appear the same as what you've seen, 20, 30 years ago.
Okay.
Or even our generation, maybe. So I definitely think that there's truth to that. I think I definitely don't consider myself a feminist. I think that, but I definitely like probably am like more in the middle of the spectrum from where
I think most reasonable people are. Most reasonable people are.
Yeah. I think that in the way that sometimes you're like, what I agree with you that maybe if a more dominant person with a more submissive person, I see that all the time in couples therapy. I also see that dynamic change and cause resentment over the years. And then that's why I'm seeing them, this shift that happens in the relationship as time goes on, that it doesn't work for them anymore. But I also think that there are times when the role reversal does work.
Let me stop you right there. When you have the couple that one is a dominant, one is submissive, and you're saying that it doesn't work for that after so many years, a lot of them, the dominant role doesn't work. It doesn't work.
So, I mean, I guess I'm talking about something slightly different. So I see it the most often with where early on in a relationship, the like parent-child role kind of works for them. Most often I see it as like, the guy is maybe coming from his home, from being like taken care of by his mom, and he finds this woman who's kind of happy to take on the role of caring for him.
And after so many years,
she's like, I don't want to be your mom. And he's like, I'm not your kid. Yeah. And this role that, these roles that worked really, really well and probably drew them together are not, not so conducive.
Well, that goes, I knew you were going to say that, because when you said that, I went, oh, that goes right to what I was going to say. Because remember what I said before, where I said women say that they want a submissive man and they want to be the leader and want to be dominant, but I truly don't think instinctively that's what they want. And in so much time, that's usually what happens. They usually lose respect for that person. They don't want to be in that situation, Anyway, all right, go right ahead.
Yeah, no, actually, that like clicking it in with that sort of makes it maybe make more sense, or maybe I can agree with it a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, so like that's, you can see it, you see it in other sort of patterns that exist that way. At the beginning of the relationship, you work with somebody because, these parts of our personality work together. And then as we get older and change, sometimes those things are what causes the clash in the relationship, right? But I think that there are times when I've seen it work, where it is maybe more how you would define it, as a more dominant woman and a more submissive man. And because they sort of each are comfortable in the role that they're in, they're actually fine. And so is the problem maybe more when it's someone thinking that they want something other than what they actually want. Right. Is it more just about being honest with what you actually want? Because I think that there are women that really do want to be in that more dominant role.
Oh, 100%.
And men who really do
kind of absolutely
want it, right? And it works for them because that is really what they want.
It works for them But here's what I always see as a problem when it happens. If they have a daughter, it's never a problem because the daughter's raised to be as dominant as the mother, right? And then she inevitably winds up picking a man that's submissive,
Yeah.
just like her parents. But when they have a son, that's when I see the problem because he inevitably picks a dominant woman. And now his mother, who's dominant, doesn't like that idea too much.
Yeah.
and I've seen this plenty of times. And then the mother is like, I don't like that girl, and they are just at odds constantly. And because he was raised in the element that he was raised in with no backbone, he just kind of like, lets them go at it and doesn't have what it takes to say, Mom, mind your business, and my wife, respect my mother. That's inevitably a lot of times what I see from that situation. But to your earlier point, yeah, there are relationships that work like that because the submissive man is so insecure and he so does not want to lead the relationship that he just lets her lead, and she's happy to lead. But inevitably, sooner or later, she will lose some kind of respect for him. I've never seen a relationship where the woman is completely dominant and doesn't lose respect for his man. Especially, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to come to the point where it's in your face, where she is insulting him in front of people, but even behind closed doors, it could be an issue. You know, I don't know. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, continue.
No, that I think I completed that thought, so I'm not sure where I left off.
Basically, you were saying the different types of scenarios that you've seen, the different types of relationships that you've seen in your career, um,
Yeah.
where it worked or it didn't work.
Yeah, and I think that there's all different equations. Like, I don't know if it's as cut and dry as it being like, that there's a particular equation of how it works, and
No,
that if it's
100%,
just this
absolutely.
way, then it
Yeah,
will work.
yeah.
And then,
It is very, it's very true. The thing is, here's one here. If you are a woman who truly works two jobs and you kind of fell on bad times and you don't have a choice and you're doing what you have to do, then I will applaud you. But it seems to me that the spectrum has gone the other way, where um, women kind of take advantage. And I'm not saying all. I don't want to say all. I'm saying those kind of women, right? I don't want to get myself in trouble. Take advantage of the system because if they do get divorced, um, there's really no repercussions for them. They don't lose the house, they don't lose their children. They actually get more money because they have to get child support and alimony now. And they get freedom because every other weekend the father has to take the kids. Where the father loses everything. He loses his kids, he loses his house, he's broke, he's got to live in his mother's basement, time and time again. Um, and they and this selfish generation doesn't take into consideration what they do to the children. And one of the things that they do is take that strong masculine role model away, right? Um, and or either they take a strong masculine role, or they married a weak man to begin with, and now that's not even present anymore. When I see a traditional marriage where the man is strong, if you will, and the woman is strong, but the woman is strong in a different way. The woman is strong in keeping the family together and being the compassionate one with her children and doing the things that her husband can or won't do, taking care of the house, cooking, cleaning, fending for her children, so on and so forth. When I see that traditional relationship, generally speaking, I see a happy relationship. It's when all these other things get kind of, now again, I'm not saying the abusive, guy that cheats on his wife. And, I'm saying, the man that takes the initiative to be the man, quote unquote, to provide, to have a strong background, what we described earlier, right?
Mhm.
I usually see a happy relationship. Um, Usually, I've seen the situations where uh, it's an issue or problems occur, and I'm not saying no problems occur in that situation. I'm sure problems occur, but I think that type of relationship kind of works itself out. Or when they do go for help, they truly don't want to leave each other and want help. But when everything else gets kind of messed up and the roles are not written in stone, or the roles are reversed and respect is lost, and the kids are grown up differently, so on and so forth. That's when I see uh, a lot of wrongs happening, if you will.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know. It's look. I know this much. Okay, I think it's like 90% of male convicts grew up with single mothers,
Mhm.
and that's not an accident. You know, um, and look at it's, if you don't have your family, look at the burden that it puts on a single mother. I mean, the amount of time that she has to spend with her kids is limited because she's probably working two jobs. But the truth of the matter is, I don't see that many types of women anymore because they usually have family that help, or they're depending on government's role to help. Um, and I think being a strong man isn't appreciated much anymore. And I think I think a weaker man is more of a woman's choice, if you will, today because of how they're kind of raised. Um, I don't know, but you can almost pinpoint a guy who grows up without a dad. He's usually generally more emotional because he's dealing with his being able to you
You view
know
that as a bad thing?
sometimes, yeah, sometimes. So there's a time and a place for everything, but sometimes on certain situations that doesn't call for emotion. It calls for reasoning and being rational. It calls for being strong. Like I
Or
said,
are you saying,
uh,
like, being emotional or being, like, aware of what your emotions are, expressing your emotions
no,
and
no,
things
no, no,
like
no,
that,
not
like
not expressing your emotions. You have to communicate with your partner in order for the relationship to survive and to do well. But I mean, like, if a close family member dies and you're the man of the house and you're sobbing and you can't hold yourself together, you you're not sending a strong vibe. You're basically, what you're doing is you're collapsing in time of chaos when you should be leading in times of chaos. There are things
couldn't
that
couldn't it be viewed that you're leading, that it's okay to collapse in a time
not
of
in a time of
sorrow?
chaos. No.
It's not a time of chaos, it's a time of grief.
Well, there are, like I said, there's a time and a place for everything. And I think in times of uh well, grief, I mean, it's chaotic, right? Somebody, a close family member dies. I'm using that as an example because everybody can understand that one, right? Because everybody's kind of been through that, if you will. Somebody has to step up and somebody has to make the arrangements. Somebody has to uh, call the coroner. Somebody has to get the plot. Somebody has to make the restaurant. Somebody has to call family members. These things have to happen. And if you collapse, then the family collapses with you. They look at you. They look at their parents or their father to lean on it during times like this. They look at strong family members. You know, I don't know. It's my opinion. What the hell do I know? I'm a
Yeah.
sewer worker.
Well, no, it's important, right? So that's why people have different opinions.
But no, of course, understanding your emotions and somewhat being in touch with them, and somewhat, obviously, I tell my mother. My mother, listen to me. I tell her too. I tell my wife that I love her, right? And I tell her that that she's everything to me, and so on and so forth, right? Of course, I tell my mother that I love her, that kind of thing. And I'm not talking about, like a piece of steel. Like, no, but rising to the occasion when the family needs you to. And like I said, usually, like I said, I'll use that example because it makes sense. Um, when a close family member dies, you usually need somebody to be strong, you know,